There are some losses in life that hit so hard, they take your breath away. You lose something you thought you couldn't live without: a job, a relationship, an opportunity, maybe even a piece of yourself. And you look around at the pieces, wondering how in the world you're going to put it all back together. But what if I told you God never intended for you to be the one to restore it? What if I told you He's already working behind the scenes to bring back everything you thought was gone for good, only this time stronger, better, and more beautiful than before? When you walk with God, loss is never the final word. It may feel like the end, but it's often the beginning of something divine. You see ashes, but God sees a platform for beauty. You see a grave, but God sees a garden getting ready to bloom. There's not a single thing you've lost that God can't restore. He is a restorer by nature. That's who He is. And He never restores things to their original form. He brings them back multiplied, refined, and drenched in grace. Think about the story of Job. He lost everything: his family, his health, his wealth. People around him thought it was over. But what they didn't realize was that the God who allowed the loss was the same God who had a plan for the comeback. And not just a return to what he had, but double. Job didn't just get restored. He got restored and increased. God doesn't bring you back to break even. He brings you back to breakthrough. Some of you are in a season right now where it feels like you're surrounded by subtraction. Things have been taken, doors have closed, relationships have ended, and you're wondering if life will ever feel full again. Don't let temporary emptiness fool you into thinking your story is finished. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's over. God often does His best work in the silence. Just because the enemy took it doesn't mean God won't return it. And when God restores it, the enemy won't be able to touch it again. Sometimes God allows certain things to be removed because they were never meant to sustain your next season. He'll let the relationship dissolve, not to punish you, but to preserve you. He'll let the opportunity fall through, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. And when the time is right, He doesn't just give it back. He gives it back better. God will never take something away without the intention to give something greater in return. But restoration doesn't always look like repetition. Sometimes God restores peace instead of the person. Sometimes He brings healing instead of the history. Don't get stuck expecting God to bring back what left. He may not restore the same thing, but He'll restore what it took from you. If that relationship stole your joy, He's restoring joy. If that betrayal stole your trust, He's restoring confidence. If that season stole your strength, He's about to pour fresh fire into your soul. Don't judge what God is doing by what you see right now. It may still look broken. It may still feel empty. But there's a process to restoration. If you've ever watched someone restore an old house or a vintage car, you know it doesn't happen overnight. First, they strip it down, remove what's rotted, sand away the old layers, fix what's under the surface. It can look like destruction, but it's really preparation. That's what God is doing in you. You're not being dismantled. You're being rebuilt. Some people gave up on you when you lost it. They walked away because they thought the loss would define you. But what they didn't see is that the hand of God was still on your life. They saw a loss, but God saw a launch. They saw your downfall, but God was setting up your destiny. And when you rise again, and you will, they won't be able to take credit for it. God is about to restore you in a way that silences every doubter and shocks every bystander. You may not have seen it yet, but your name is already on the miracle. Haven is already scheduling your comeback. You may not feel strong right now, but strength is coming. You may not have the answer right now, but clarity is coming. You may not see the increase yet, but it's already en route. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it's not happening. Don't let grief become your guide. Don't let fear become your forecast. Keep your eyes on the promise. Keep your faith anchored in His word. Because when God says He'll restore, He means it. His timing is perfect. His method is flawless. And His restoration is always worth the wait. So hold your head up, wipe your tears. Stand firm in the middle of the storm, because God is not finished with your story. You haven't seen your best yet. The restoration is coming. And when it shows up, it's going to make sense why you had to lose what you did. Not because you weren't enough, but because God was preparing something more than enough. What you lost was real, but what's coming will be greater. Trust Him. He's not just going to fix it. He's going to restore it. There are moments in life when we find ourselves waiting, and the silence from heaven feels deafening. We've prayed, we've believed, we've even fasted, and yet nothing seems to be moving. The doors remain closed. The breakthrough hasn't come. And if we're not careful, that waiting season can whisper lies into our spirit, telling us that if it hasn't happened by now, maybe it's not going to happen at all. Maybe God changed His mind. Maybe you missed your moment. But let me tell you something with certainties. The delay is not a denial. God is not punishing you with waiting. He is preparing you in the waiting. Sometimes God has to slow us down so He can set things up. What looks like a delay to us is actually a divine strategy in motion. If He gave it to you too soon, it might overwhelm you. If He opened the door before the foundation was ready, it could collapse under the weight of what's coming. God loves you too much to give you something before you're ready to carry it. So He holds it back, not to hurt you, but to align it perfectly with your maturity, your growth, and your purpose. There are blessings that require timing. It's not that they don't belong to you. It's not that God doesn't want you to have them. It's just that everything in the kingdom operates on divine timing, not human urgency. And when the time is right, when you're ready, when it's ready, and when God's will intersects with your preparation, nothing and no one can stop what's coming. But until that moment, God will keep you in the waiting room, not to frustrate you, but to fortify you. Sometimes the greatest work God does isn't in what He gives, but in what He builds in you while you're waiting. Waiting stretches your faith. It teaches you to walk not by sight, but by trust. It refines your character, burns away impatience, and forces you to lean into God in a way you never would if everything came easily. You start depending on Him not just for the outcome, but for the strength to endure. That's a deeper kind of faith, the kind that's not based on performance, but on presence. It's not about what God is doing for you, it's about who He's becoming to you in the process. Think about Joseph. He had a dream as a teenager that he would lead and be in a position of influence. But instead of rising to power immediately, he was sold into slavery, thrown into prison, and forgotten by the very people he helped. It looked like delay. It felt like denial. But what seemed like wasted time was really training ground. By the time Joseph reached the palace, he wasn't just a dreamer. He was a leader. He had integrity, he had wisdom, and he had a heart that had been softened in obscurity. If he had skipped the waiting, he would have missed the preparation. And the same is true for you. God is not in a rush. He's not pacing the floors of heaven, worried about your timeline. He's eternal. He sees your end from your beginning. He knows how it all fits together. So while you're asking, when? He's answering with, wait, because He knows that what He's building in you is going to require strength you haven't had to use yet, patience you didn't know you possessed, and vision that goes beyond what your eyes can see. Don't misread the silence. Don't let the delay make you doubt the promise. God is not ignoring you. He's investing in you. Sometimes He's lining up other people's obedience. Sometimes He's setting up circumstances you can't even see yet. You're waiting on the manifestation, but God is orchestrating the miracle. And when it shows up, you'll realize why it had to take the time that it did. The people you needed weren't in position yet. The opportunity wasn't fully developed. The lessons you needed to learn hadn't been completed. But now, after the delay, after the refining, after the preparation, it'll come, and it will come with peace. There are some things you only learn in the waiting. There's a maturity that can't be microwaved. God's not just giving you something to hold. He's making you someone who can handle it. The delay isn't a detour, it's development. It's not that God forgot. It's that He's faithful to finish what He starts. So if you're in a season where it feels like everything's on pause, know this: the pause is not permanent. The delay is not a no, it's a not yet. And not yet doesn't mean never. What God started in you, He intends to complete. The vision may seem slow in coming, but it will not delay a single moment beyond His perfect time. Keep your heart pure. Keep your faith alive. Don't let disappointment choke out your hope. What's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. And when the breakthrough comes, when the door opens, when the favor flows, you'll realize that the delay wasn't wasted time. It was divine timing. It's easy to believe God's favor is on us when everything is going well. When the job is secure, the relationships are thriving, the doors are opening. That's when it feels natural to say, I'm blessed and highly favored. But the real test of faith is not how you respond when everything is going right. It's how you respond when it looks like everything is falling apart. When you've lost something valuable, when people walked away, when the opportunity slipped through your fingers, those are the moments where your faith has to rise above your feelings and your trust in God has to anchor deeper than your circumstances. Loss has a way of making you question everything. It rattles your sense of control. It makes you wonder if you're still on the right path. It can make you feel like your destiny has been delayed, or worse, derailed. But what you need to understand is that loss doesn't cancel God's plan for your life. It may feel like something has ended, but with God, an ending is often the beginning of something greater. He's the only one who can take what was meant to break you and use it to bless you. He doesn't just restore what was lost. He increases it, He multiplies it, He upgrades it in a way only heaven can. You might not see it now, but God has a pattern of using brokenness as the foundation for breakthrough. All throughout Scripture, we see this principle play out. Job lost everything, his wealth, his health, his children. But even in his sorrow, he stayed connected to the source. And what did God do? He didn't just give Job back what he lost. He gave him double. Not because Job was perfect, not because he understood it all, but because he remained faithful when it made no sense. That's what God honors. Not flawless people, but faithful ones. You may have lost something valuable, a relationship, an opportunity, a version of your life you thought you'd be living by now. And maybe you're looking around wondering how God could possibly make it right. But just because you don't see a way doesn't mean there isn't one. God specializes in divine recovery. He knows how to restore what was taken, and He knows how to do it in a way that leaves you better than before. He's not just going to bring it back. He's going to bring it back bigger, stronger, and more meaningful than it was the first time. But here's what you've got to do in the meantime. Don't let the loss define you. Don't let it cause you to shrink your faith. Don't build your identity around what walked away or what didn't work out. If it left your life, God has a plan to redeem it. If it was stripped away, God has a plan to replenish it. Your job is to stay planted, stay believing, stay speaking life over your situation. You may not be able to see what God is doing behind the scenes, but trust that something is moving, something is shifting, something is aligning in your favor. One of the greatest traps of the enemy is to convince you that what's lost can never be restored. He wants you to believe that the damage is permanent, but God never asks you to figure out how He's going to do it. He just asks you to believe that He will. And when God makes a promise, He backs it up with power. He's not a man that He should lie. If He said He'll restore you, you can take that to heart. You may have cried, but He's collecting those tears. You may have stumbled, but He's ordering your steps. And when the time is right, restoration will meet you in a way you never imagined. It might not look exactly like it did before. It might not come through the people or the channels you expected. But God is not limited by what you lost. He is the God who multiplies. He's not trying to get you back to where you were. He's trying to take you to where you couldn't have gone without the loss. That's how good He is. He wastes nothing. Even your pain has a purpose. Even your heartbreak is being turned into harvest. Sometimes God has to allow the loss to strip away what was never going to sustain you. He lets certain things fall apart so that your foundation can be rebuilt stronger. He allows certain people to exit so that He can introduce divine connections. And when that restoration comes, you'll realize that you didn't really lose anything. You were just being positioned for something far greater. So don't mourn too long over what's gone. Don't sit in the ashes when beauty is on the way. Lift your eyes. Lift your faith. God has not forgotten you. He's not punishing you. He's preparing you. The restoration is not just coming. It's already in motion. And when it shows up, it will be clear that only God could have done it. Not your effort, not your connections, not your strategy. Just grace. Just favor. Just restoration wrapped in His love and delivered in His perfect timing. There are seasons in life when it feels like everything is being stripped away. You look around and realize that the people who once stood by you are gone. The opportunities you once counted on have vanished. The dreams you nurtured seem out of reach. And in those quiet, uncertain moments, it's easy to assume that God has forgotten you, that He's pulled back His hand, that maybe, just maybe, you're on your own. But what you must understand is this: God doesn't allow loss to subtract from your life. He allows it to set the stage for a supernatural comeback. When God restores, He doesn't bring you back to what you had. He takes you beyond it. It's part of His nature. He's not in the business of simply returning what was taken. He's in the business of redeeming it, multiplying it, and transforming it into something greater than it ever was before. When you walk with God, restoration doesn't mean returning to how things used to be. It means stepping into something more powerful, more mature, more refined than you could have imagined. We see this over and over again in Scripture. When David lost everything in Ziklag, his family, his possessions, even the loyalty of his men, it seemed like the final blow. He wept until he had no strength left. But then he did something that changed everything. He strengthened himself in the Lord. He didn't wait for a rescue. He didn't let bitterness set in. He reminded himself of who his God was. And because of that, God led him into full recovery. Not only did David get back what was taken, but he gained even more. That's the pattern of divine restoration. It always brings increase. You may have lost time, years that feel wasted in relationships that drained you, jobs that undervalued you, seasons that left you broken. And it's tempting to believe that what's gone is gone. But with God, nothing is ever truly lost. He can restore time by accelerating your progress. What should have taken years, He can do in months. He can make up for lost ground, lost opportunities, lost favor. He can catch you up and take you further than where you would have been if nothing had ever gone wrong in the first place. That's the power of divine restoration. It doesn't just give you back what you lost. It launches you forward with momentum that only heaven can create. But to receive that kind of restoration, you have to stop mourning what was and start expecting what will be. You have to shift your focus from what you don't have to what God is preparing. Because even when you can't see it, He's working behind the scenes, orchestrating the pieces, aligning the people, opening the doors, and setting things in motion. Your job isn't to figure out how He'll do it. Your job is to keep your heart right while He does it. Keep believing, keep praising, keep moving forward. Don't let bitterness take root. Don't let disappointment shape your faith. God knows how to pay you back for what the enemy tried to steal. And when He does it, He'll do it in such a way that even your enemies will have to admit, this wasn't luck, this wasn't strategy, this was the hand of God. Sometimes we think restoration means God is going to bring back exactly what we lost, that the same people, the same places, the same plans will return. But often, what He has in mind is so much better than what you left behind. The relationship that ended may have broken your heart, but it cleared the path for someone who will love you the way God intended. The job you lost may have closed a chapter, but it made space for a calling you wouldn't have pursued otherwise. The setback may have been painful, but it positioned you for a comeback greater than anything you could have scripted on your own. God doesn't operate in reverse. He's always moving forward. So when He restores, He doesn't take you back. He takes you beyond your expectations, beyond your limitations, beyond what others said was possible. That's why you can't let your past define your future. If you're holding on to what was, you won't have hands free to receive what's coming. Let go of the ashes, because beauty is on the way. Release the former so you can embrace the future. Even when it feels like you're starting over, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. You've gained strength. You've gained perspective. You've learned how to fight in the dark. And now that you've endured the fire, you're coming out refined, not ruined. You're not who you were before the loss. And that's the point. Restoration begins when you recognize that what you lost didn't define you, it developed you. So don't despise the loss. Don't curse the season. Don't bury your hope. The God who restores is also the God who redeems, and He's already written your comeback into the story. What's ahead of you carries more glory than what's behind you held. And when it comes, it won't just fill the empty spaces. It'll overflow them. God never restores you back to where you were. He restores you forward, into purpose, into promise, and into more than you ever thought possible. Sometimes in life, it feels like you've been overlooked. You've been faithful. You've prayed. You've done what was right. And yet, doors didn't open. People didn't see your worth. And opportunities seem to pass you by. It can be frustrating when you know what you carry, when you know the gifts God placed inside you, but it feels like no one else sees it. You start to wonder if maybe it's too late, if you missed your moment, if your time has passed. But what you have to understand is that when God gets ready to restore, He doesn't need anyone's permission. When it's your time, no one can stop it, not the delay, not the rejection, not even the years that were lost. God is a God of perfect timing. He knows how to bring you from the background to the foreground in a single moment. He knows how to take what's been hidden, what's been ignored, what's been dismissed, and suddenly shine His light on it. It doesn't matter how long it's been. When restoration comes, it comes with speed. It comes with authority. It comes with a shift so drastic that the very people who once overlooked you will have no choice but to watch as God elevates you in ways they never expected. Think about David. He wasn't even invited to the lineup when Samuel came to anoint the next king. His own father didn't think he was worthy. He was out in the field tending sheep, forgotten by everyone except God. And when it was time for the anointing to fall, God said, "Go get him. We will not sit down until he arrives." That's what divine restoration looks like. You might have been left out, looked over, or underestimated. But when it's your time, God will have people stand and wait until you walk into what belongs to you. The same people who ignored you will have to acknowledge you, not because of your effort, but because of God's hand on your life. And when God restores, He doesn't just catch you up, He launches you forward. What should have taken years to build, He can establish in moments. What was held back for seasons, He can release in fullness. It may feel like you're behind, but in God's timing, you're right on schedule. He was never late. He was preparing you, developing your character, deepening your roots. Because when He restores, it's not just about what you get back. It's about who you've become in the process. You're not stepping back into what was. You're stepping forward into what is greater. You might feel like no one recognizes your value, but God does. He hasn't forgotten the seeds you've sown in silence. He hasn't ignored the nights you cried, the prayers you whispered, the integrity you maintained when no one was watching. Heaven keeps perfect records. And when it's your season of restoration, those unseen sacrifices become visible rewards. God will make sure you're compensated for what you endured. The times you held your peace, The times you stayed faithful, the times you loved when it would have been easier to walk away, none of that was wasted. Sometimes God allows you to be hidden for a while because He's protecting what He placed in you. If He had exposed you too soon, you may have been celebrated for the wrong thing or attacked before you were ready. Being hidden isn't punishment, it's preparation. And when the moment of restoration comes, it will be undeniable. You won't have to force it. You won't have to prove yourself. The fruit will speak for itself. God will put you in places where your name was never even mentioned, and suddenly you'll be the answer to problems people didn't know they had. When restoration shows up, it doesn't come because you campaigned for it or manipulated your way into position. It comes because God ordained it. He set the calendar. He marked the moment. And when that moment hits, nothing and no one can block it. What you thought was a detour was actually a setup. What looked like silence was actually strategy. And when it unfolds, it will be so clear that God was writing a story far bigger than what you could see. You may feel like you've been sitting on the sidelines while everyone else is stepping into their purpose. But God hasn't forgotten your name. He hasn't overlooked your faithfulness. He's not blind to your obedience. He's been storing up a blessing that's tailored specifically to your journey. When it's released, it will feel like the wait was worth it. Because it's not just restoration, it's restoration with interest. Restoration that comes with favor, with joy, with peace, with open doors that no man can shut. So don't let discouragement settle in your spirit. Don't let the silence fool you. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean God isn't working. Just because you haven't seen the result doesn't mean the result isn't coming. Keep your posture right. Keep your heart open. Keep your expectation high. Because God is not just going to restore you. He's going to do it in a way that silences every voice that said it was over for you. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're being positioned for a restoration so powerful that it will make up for everything you thought you missed. There's something powerful about serving a God who doesn't just restore you in private, but honors you in public. When you've walked through pain, when you've endured loss, when you've had to keep praising while your heart was breaking, you need to know that God isn't just going to heal you quietly. He's going to bless you openly. He's going to make sure that the people who saw you go through the valley will also see you rise to the mountaintop. He's not just going to whisper your breakthrough. He's going to announce it in a way that leaves no doubt who was behind it. For every tear you cried in secret, God has a public blessing prepared. For every time you had to smile through disappointment, for every time you encouraged others while you felt empty yourself, for every season you served while wondering when your time would come. God saw it. He counted it. And He's not going to let you come out of that quietly. Restoration isn't just about regaining what was lost. It's about revealing what was preserved, elevated, and multiplied while you were in that hidden season. We live in a world where people often equate silence with defeat. If you're not posting about it, if you're not broadcasting your wins, it must mean nothing's happening. But God does His best work in silence. He does the most significant development when nobody's watching. And when He brings the restoration, it will be so obvious, so undeniable, that you won't need to explain a thing. You won't need to defend your journey or justify the process. The fruit will speak for itself. The evidence will silence every critic. The transformation will make the struggle worth it. In the book of Job, after he lost everything, his children, his health, his wealth, his reputation, God didn't just restore him to what he had before. He gave him double, twice as much. And what's remarkable is that everyone who had watched him suffer, everyone who assumed God had abandoned him, had to witness the blessing when it came back around. The same ones who distanced themselves in his affliction had to draw near again in his restoration. That's the kind of public honor God brings, not to make you arrogant, but to make it clear He was with you the whole time. He saw the suffering. He measured the loss. And now He's making it right in a way that everyone can see. Some people wrote you off when you were down. They assumed the setback was permanent. They thought your silence meant surrender. But what they didn't see was that while they were counting you out, God was counting the cost. And He always repays what you've endured, plus interest. He doesn't just give back what was taken. He adds something to it. A strength you didn't have before. A wisdom that wasn't there before. A level of favor you never accessed before. That's why you don't need to chase validation. You don't need to argue with people who misunderstood your pain. Just let God finish what He started. Because when He lifts you, it will speak louder than anything you could ever say. Public restoration doesn't mean revenge. It means redemption. It's not about proving people wrong. It's about proving God right. It's about showing the world what happens when someone stays faithful in the fire, when someone keeps trusting in the dark, when someone refuses to let bitterness take root. God honors that. He rewards that. And when the moment comes, it won't just restore your reputation. It'll elevate your calling. You don't have to worry about who's not supporting you, who left you, who forgot about you. That was all part of the setup. God knows how to make sure the right people are in the room when your restoration unfolds. He knows how to gather the ones who counted you out so they have front row seats when He blesses you. Not to shame them, but to show them what grace looks like. To show them how powerful it is when God puts His hand on a life that others tried to dismiss. So don't be discouraged by how long it's taking. Don't be disheartened by the silence. Every seed you've sown, every prayer you've whispered, every battle you've fought, it's all been leading to a moment of divine unveiling, where everything you've carried in secret is confirmed in public, where your private pain is met with public purpose, where your faith in the dark is rewarded with favor in the light. The world may not have seen your tears, but heaven did. The world may not know your story, but God does. And when He restores in such a way that you don't look like what you've been through. You don't carry the smell of the fire you walked through. You come out shining, not broken, elevated, not embarrassed, empowered, not empty. You may have felt like you were being buried, but you were really being planted. And when the harvest comes, it's going to be visible, tangible, undeniable. What God is doing in your life isn't just for your healing, it's for His glory. So that when people look at your life, they'll say, only God could have done that. And you'll walk in a level of restoration that doesn't just bless you, but also bears witness to the power of staying faithful, the strength of trusting through the storm, and the reward of not giving up.